Hi there. Welcome to New Tracks Modeling. New Tracks is an exciting new digital opportunity to obtain mentoring to help you improve your modeling. You will meet talented modelers and manufacturers from all over the world who share their model building skills and artistic advice. Improve your modeling and increase the confidence in your modeling efforts. Share your building efforts with fellow modelers and have some fun doing it. The shows are live on Zoom and YouTube, so be sure to join in and ask your questions. Now here is New Tracks founder and your host, Jim Kello, MMR.
Welcome. Thank you so much for joining us this evening. We really appreciate it. Hope you come back often, see us more than one time. And tell your friends about us. Have them join us too. Before we start the show, I want to introduce Father Ron Walters with the show's prayer. Father Walters?
Almighty God, just as our models imitate the beauty of your creation, may we imitate your kindness and generosity to us in our relationship with others. Bless us now and always. Amen.
Thank you so much, Father, for everything that you do for our show. We really do appreciate all your efforts. And now I wanted to run the video for our show sponsor, Brennan's Model Railroading.
For over 25 years, Brennan's Model Railroading has been offering unique products for the O-scale market. Our flagship product, Brennan's Better Ballast, was an instant hit and continues to be the industry leader. Its prototypical size and natural color blend of real crushed granite make it the choice for discerning modelers. Since then, we've developed a complementary line of natural ground cover materials. Additionally, we offer craftsman kits that anyone can build with complete photographically illustrated instructions that assume you've never done this before. The Sonky Wanky Coffee Company is the latest and the fourth kit to be added to our ongoing and highly popular limited edition Ellison Tribute series. These kits take Ellison's scratch-built iconic structures to a new level with Dennis spin. The idea being that if Frank were alive today, this is how we would build these models using modern methods and materials. Use the QR code to visit our website.
Thank you so much for being a sponsor, Dennis. We really appreciate your help. And we've got the scholarship winners being announced next week by Bob Davidson. And we hope that everybody can attend that show because it's going to be important. We've got 3 fantastic young modelers that won the prizes, and each one of them will get $2,000 toward their education. So if you can come and attend, we hope you will, and meet them and say hello to them. They are our future. They're going to be the leaders of this hobby down the road. And we're so pleased that we were able to help them because of the donations of everybody that watches this show, everybody that reads any of the articles. We can't thank you enough for all the help that you've provided and all the donations that you've provided to help these young people with their education. And that'll be the focus for our show next week, so we hope that you'll attend that. The MyBuild, we're doing one tonight. The next one is August the 21st. And the format for it is Special Harvest. So anything to do with harvest. We particularly invite you to present your photos and send them to Chris Corse, who you'll meet shortly, because he's going to be running the MyBuild for us this evening. I want to let Phil Edholm talk a minute about the NMRA Gauge, National NMRA Gauge Convention in Pittsburgh, Philadelphia, I mean, on the 11th to the 14th of September. Phil?
Hey, thank you, Jim. So on the 11th to 14th of September at the Narrow Gauge Convention, we will have a new tracks table. Tom and I will be setting that up. We'll have the TV there. Anyone who is at the convention, like to come by and do a little bit of time there, talk to folks, would appreciate it. The idea is just to have a presence there and have people say, hey, this is a great place to check out if you're a narrow gauger. So anyone who's going, we probably should try to put that together either on the show here. I know Bob's going, Tom's going. Probably be a good idea to see, maybe we can do this in the chat. Anyone who's going, put your name up in the chat and we get a list together and send some emails out or something. So anyway, if you're there, stop by, see Tom and I, let us know if you can spend a little time at the booth at the table. I think we're right next to the Crow River products, as I understand it. So
Yes.
look forward to seeing you there.
And I really do appreciate, Phil, you and Tom representing New Tracks, and look forward to hearing a lot about that convention. I understand it's going to be a really great one. Well, now let's start the show. And the first person, again, is Father Ron Walters. As I say, I appreciate so much what Father does for our shows. And what you're going to see him do is take a plastic kit and make it look like wood, and you won't believe it. Father Walters, welcome.
Thank you, Jim. Everyone see that?
Yes, sir.
Okay. Jim asked me a few weeks ago to put together something about how to make plastic kits look like wood. And I think he got his inspiration from this particular model kit. It's one of several in a package from Walthers called Vintage Trackside Structures. This is all plastic, and I've tried to make it look like the wood that it's supposed to look like. Get going here. I first learned about how to do this from Jason Jensen, actually, and you see the first reference there. This presentation will be uploaded to the NewTrack site as a PDF, and you'll be able to click on that to see that. But he did a presentation several years ago with a Walthers kit on how to make it look like wood. It's a rather extensive video. You can see that it's 42 minutes long, and it very thoroughly shows how he turned this plastic kit into something that looks like it belongs and that it's made out of wood. The other one is actually a video on making plastic look like wood for gamers. Those who are involved in video games, or not video games, live games with plastic items. They're in the 1/35th scale, I think, is the scale for it. But he also has a very thorough technique on how to make a piece of plastic look like wood. These are the tools that I've used to do this. Obviously, a razor saw, the fine tooth for H, O, and N, and you can use the medium tooth for O scale, a hobby knife, scalpel, whichever you choose to use. I've included both here in the photograph. A ruler, pencil, a ponce wheel that make it, if you want to make the wood look like it has holes in it, a wire brush, or a file card, which is a type of tool used to clean files, steel files, sandpaper, or you can also use steel wool, although sandpaper is probably a little more effective than steel wool. A stiff toothbrush can also be used, a very stiff one. You'll see me use a toothbrush, but not to put any kind of effect in the wood. You'll need some warm dish water. I'll explain that later. And of course, to color the piece of plastic, you're going to need some acrylic paints, paint brushes, real or a synthetic sponge. First question you have to ask yourself is, how old do you want to make the building look? Obviously, the amount of distressing you do to it will make it look older. The least amount, of course, will make it look newer. Trying to make it look like wood is going to be a bit of a task, and I'll explain that a little bit. Obviously, the more you do to the plastic, the more it will look distressed. You have to keep that in mind. There are various stages of distress. A wire brush will give you an impression of wool. A razor saw will deepen the texture, and a hobby knife will make it look even more distressed. The deeper you put cuts in the plastic will make it look more like neglected wood or broken wood, pieces of wood. You can also lift some of the pieces of the siding in order to make it look more distressed. It can also exemplify water damage. Missing boards makes it look even more neglected with water damage or wind damage, and also a certain amount of vandalism that's been done to a vacated, possibly, or disused building. And if you can cut out pieces of the sides to make it look like the studs behind the facade, the surface of the wood, it'll make it look even more like it's been abandoned. You have to, part of this is making it look like wood is painting it. And of course, most of us are used to, at least at the beginning of our modeling, we use the solid color to make it look like the whole thing is covered with paint. That's a fresh coat of paint. It makes it look like it's brand new. Even if you do some weathering, it still will look more new than if you distress the plastic before you paint it. The thinner the amount of paint you put on, the more it looks distressed. Protected wood has more color. Unprotected wood has various levels of distress and neglect, and the less paint you put on it, the more distressed or neglected the wood looks. It's a careful and often tedious combination of using tools and paint to make the plastic look like wood. Please don't rush the process. The more you rush it, the more you're going to make mistakes. Don't force the tools that you're using. Let the tools do the job. So we're not talking here about trying to deeply gouge the wood. We're just scraping the surface. And be patient. If you're getting frustrated, walk away and come back later. After all, Rome wasn't built in a day. Excuse the pun. I'm going to make some presumptions here about the process. I presume that the plastic wall section that you're using is being worked on or has already been prepped in some way, that you've removed it from the sprue. Of course, some people like to work on the walls on the sprue before they remove it from the sprue. That you've laid out, if you're doing a fresh build or a scratch build, you probably already have laid out at least where the windows and doors are going to go, and I'm going to presume that you've already cut those opening. The work surface that you're going to be working at, you need some space for this. So don't clutter up the work area with other kinds of things. Part of this is you're using some sharp instruments. And so I don't want you to get hurt, and you don't want to damage other things that you might be working on. I'm going to presume that at least for this presentation, that you haven't applied paint to anything yet. This is bare plastic, either from a kit or from some material that you're going to use to build the building. The back of the wall section is flat. If there's something underneath it, like bracing or something like that, your piece is going to wobble as you're working on it. So the plain back of the wood, of the plastic, is going to be best. And that I'm going to presume that if you need magnification, you're wearing it, either additional glasses or an optivisor or something. Control and safety are first. I want you to work smarter, not harder. Double-sided tape can be applied to the back of the piece will help keep it stable. If you're scratch building, you might consider not cutting the pieces of the wall out, but laying them out on the piece of plastic in order to distress it before you cut them off of the piece of plastic that you might be using to build your building. The first step in the process is texturing the pieces of plastic. And we're going to be using several tools for this: a wire brush, some sandpaper, a razor saw. These are most commonly what we use to distress the plastic to make it look like wood. The wire brush and the sandpaper, these take the sheen off the plastic, but they also put some texture into it. It's fine texture, and you might need your optivisor to see the texture to begin with. But this is a good place to start. If you want the building to look relatively new, but to have some texture, stop here. After putting some texture in with a wire brush or sandpaper, you'll probably need to use a toothbrush to wipe off all of the fine particles that the result from texturing the plastic. But keep in mind, it's nearly impossible to see the texture of wood in HO and N scales because you're looking at it like you're a bird in the sky or an airplane. You're looking at it from a distance. And so most of us we're going to exaggerate the effect of texturing in order to kind of fool our brains that this is really wood and not plastic. The razor saw is the next item, and this is where control comes in. We're not trying to cut the piece. We're scraping the surface to make it look more like wood. While the wire brush and the sandpaper put some texture in, the razor saw is going to put more of the texture in the plastic. But we're not talking about putting a lot of pressure on that razor saw, but you need to put some here. And so this is where control happens. If you have a piece of scrap of the same item, you might try drawing the razor saw across the scrap piece of plastic first, so you get an understanding of how much pressure to put on the razor saw. After that, it depends on how far you want to take the weathering on, or the texture on the plastic. I then use a hobby knife or a scalpel to put more texture into the plastic. And again, here we're talking about control. You don't want to deeply cut into the plastic, because the more pressure or more effort you exert, the more likely you are to make a mistake, to cut yourself or to cut too deeply into the plastic. So begin by light strokes of the hobby knife across the wood. And if that's not enough, a little more, maybe a second stroke. When you watch Jason Jensen's example, you'll see him do that. He uses several strokes of the knife across each of the boards. And this is where it gets tedious, because in those little buildings, there's a lot of boards to put texture in. You might want to, again, to make it look more distressed or more weathered, you might want to lift some of the boards. And that's what the second picture on the right shows you. I'm using the knife and I very gently begin with light cuts along the bottom of the clapboard. Or if you're using, for instance, board and batten, you might want to run it down very lightly along the edge of the batten. And you may have to do several strokes here in order to get the knife gently under that clapboard. Then you can use a single-edge razor to lift that plastic. The biggest mistake that happens, and it's not tragic, is that you break the plastic. So you have to be very careful as you lift that plastic. If you break it, don't panic, because that shows a deeper level of distress. And as you saw in that original photograph at the beginning of this presentation, you saw that I have lifted some of the boards. You might, on the clapboard especially, or on the batten of board and batten, or along the boards that are not battens, on board and batten siding, you might want to run a line across some of the boards to show that there's two boards there instead of one continuous board. This demonstrates that the builders were trying to efficiently use the wood that they purchased for construction, and they're trying to use it all up instead of trying to use only full-size pieces. You can also, at that point, lift part of that, because in weathering, the water will get into that crack eventually and will expand the wood to the point where it lifts part of that joint away from the other board that's connected to it. After all that scraping, and there's lots of bits of plastic, you'll want to use something to clean it off. This is where steel wool comes in, or a toothbrush. It will pick up all those bits of plastic, that fuzz that results from all of this, so that you have a clean surface. You will also want to clean the board with warm soap and water, which I'll get to in a few minutes. You might want to demonstrate how old the building is by creating some missing boards. In this particular photograph, you see I have basically cut out part of the foundation of this building. I've created a hole in the foundation where raccoons or cats or some other animal might get in under the floorboard of the building. This shows the distress and the length of time that this building has been around. This building is one of the vintage buildings in that Walther's kit. So it's supposed to be an old building to begin with. So this is another way to create a level of distress or age in the wood. The next is going to be priming the plastic for painting. And before you do the priming, what's going to be necessary is to clean the building first. And I mean that seriously, because all plastic has a kind of mold release on it. You may not feel it with your fingers or see it with your eyes, but in order for that to pop out of the mold, which is how they eject this after they've injected the plastic into the mold, they need that release on there for it to pop out. So you have to wash it in warm soap and water before you do anything more to color the piece. I always use a kind of primer on the plastic because it gives a base color to everything. One of the things about the plastic that you receive in most plastic kits, it's whatever color they're using at the time. And they may decide that they're going to do a whole bunch of buildings, and so they do them all in brown or tan. But they may do so in gray. A lot of the windows that we get from Tichy are all done in gray plastic, which means that a lot of people don't even think about washing all those tiny windows in HO and N scale. They're very small, some of them, to get the mold release off of them. They are sort of helping you by giving you a gray color to begin with. Most of us who've been involved in photography know that a gray color is a good place to start to measure the amount of light coming into your camera to get a baseline for that. In the movie video cameras they always talk about white balance. But for most still photography, we always begin with a kind of standard gray in order to gauge how well our cameras are capturing the color. So I like beginning with a gray coat. Some are recommending to begin with a white coat if you're going to be using colors like the red or the blue or the green. But I find using the gray is a good way to begin for wood, because the colors I'm going to apply, I want the gray to show through. These particular Walthers kits are all in brown or a tan color. So I needed to coat these with a gray coat to begin with. I used on this particular model the Tamiya light gray, because I really wanted the grain of the wood to show through. The cheap automotive primer gray I often use, and that's recommended by a lot of professional modelers because it's fast and quick. A couple of light sprays with the cheap automotive gray primer, and you've got the color, the piece covered. With the Tamiya, it takes several applications in order to get the gray. And if you look closely, you can probably see some of the original tan at the top of this particular wall. I've also, since giving this a primer coat, I've taped off the bottom foundation because I'm going to make that a different color. Painting takes practice, but it's not hard. It can be tedious because you've got a lot to do. If there are many things to paint, it's going to take some time. And I work on the walls flat. I know a lot of modelers do. Some build the model and then paint it. It works for them. I'm not a professional here. And so I can tell you that getting this aged look sort of happens for me. I've taken some artist courses, but I can't figure out, maybe I'm trying too hard, but I just can't get the knack of drawing or painting. I studied the techniques that Jason Jensen used to create that one model. And I'm starting on this one. I'm starting to use what's called a wet palette, but a wet your brush first before you dip it in paint. And you don't need a lot of paint on the brush. You just need a little. If you have to dip it in the paint several times, this is where the tediousness comes in, but it's going to be more effective than trying to load your brush with paint and do it all at once. If you want some tips on that, see Greg's presentation from a couple of weeks ago on painting and paintbrushes. So here's what I did for this particular wall, so you can see it. I'm going to be quiet here for a minute. As you can see, I wet the brush in the water before painting, and I dip the tip in many times with just a little on the tip. I'm not trying to use the whole brush here in the sense of wetting the entire brush with paint. It's just a little bit, and I'm dragging it across. The length of the brush helps me with this. If you've seen some car painters paint stripes on cars, you see that they wet the whole brush, but they're not using the whole brush. They only use a part of it to put the line in, the fine line on the car. I'm using a wet palette here. This is the first time I've used a wet palette. Most of the time in the past, what I've done is just use a regular palette and have some water handy to wet down the brush. But you can see here that I'm getting sort of paint and sort of not paint. You can see a gray spot or two on there. And this is the effect I'm going for. I'm trying to get a weathered look to the plastic. This takes a lot of work and a lot of practice. And if you make a mistake, you can wash it off and start over again. It's not the end of the world. Here you can see the initial paint that I've put on the building. There's no weathering done to this yet, except how I put the paint on. You can already see that this building, even in this base coat, looks like it's old and weathered already. And this is the effect I want to create. Some places where there's lots of paint, some places where there isn't enough. Some places that look like it's been lifted or missing, like it wasn't painted at all. And that's the effect I'm going for here. What I'm going to do after this particular photograph is spray the whole thing with dull coat, which will seal off this particular section. Then I'm going to use some ink and alcohol, the good old India ink and alcohol, and other kinds of things to weather it. And I don't want to take off the acrylic paint. Alcohol will remove the acrylic paint. So I put a coat of dull coat on so I don't lose what I've already done. And here's the final picture. And this is not, I haven't fully weathered it yet, but you can already see that this doesn't look like plastic anymore. And that's the effect we're going for. So there's my presentation. Did I keep it under 15 minutes, guys?
I think you did a perfect job, and it's a beautiful looking building.
So it still needs some weathering, but that's the completed building.
Anybody have any questions for Father Ron?
Father Ron, this is Bob Geldmacher. When you use the cheap primer, do you find that kind of takes away from the detail a little bit?
It can if you spray it too much.
Okay.
I learned the hard way on that. So I'm holding the piece about 6 to 8 inches away, and I'm giving a spray. I'm not trying to completely cover it with one spray. So it's several, and after a while, you know how many of those to do. If you do too many, you say, I made a mistake there. I covered it too much.
Okay, good. Thanks.
A lot of paint comes out of those cheap primers. And they're meant to be, because they're meant to be used on cars. They're not meant to be used on model plastic.
Mm-hmm.
So you hold it far enough away and you give a shallow coat or almost a dry coat, and several of those, and then stop before you do too much.
Okay,
Knowing
good.
when to stop is the key.
Yeah. Thank you.
Hey, Father, I think I ran into a problem as he was just describing, but I think it was when I purchased my primer, I didn't realize that there is sandable primer and then just primer. And I think the sandable, if you get that, it will fill in the details because it's meant to like help fill in scratches in that. So I think awareness when going out and picking that up might be imperative.
You're very right. What I was recommended a long time ago was to get the 2X. I think it's made by one of those companies that used to make model paints. The 2X primer type of stuff is not, you can sand it, but it's not advertised to be sandable. And the people who've recommended this are Bar Mills, Jason Jensen, Foscale. A lot of these manufacturers are recommending using the cheap primer, but you have to pay attention to that. And that's when I bought the first can, it was the cheap kind that's sandable, and it covered everything. And I had to start over again.
Father, thank you so very much. We learned a lot tonight. We appreciate it.
Thank you.
Well, now I want to turn to Tom Farrell, who is finishing up the Tom York Spillane building that Frenchman River Model Works produces. Tom, welcome.
Thank you for having me this evening. And Okay. So this evening is part 5, the conclusion of the Mickey Spillane, the M. Spillane building, New Tracks Modeling Watch Me Build. This is an original O-scale kit designed by the legendary kit maker Thomas York. It's his 50th anniversary kit, and it's probably his best kit to date. It's tonight's program regarding this structure is sponsored by the manufacturer, Frenchman River Model Works. I urge you to check out their website at frenchmanriver.com. They offer HO, S scale, O scale, 1/24th scale building kits, boat kits, detail parts, figures, vehicle kits. They exclusively carry Tom York's kits, his old kits, now being remanufactured by Frenchman River Model Works. I counted 46 in all on their website. And regarding the boat kits, I personally built a 34-foot lobster boat. We did a video on that. I did a multi-scale rusted hull from Frenchman River, and I did a wooden fishing boat, all in O scale. They're just marvelous resin kits. I urge you to check that website out. So tonight is the conclusion. I worked like a fiend all day today to get this thing done. The paint's still wet. This is where we left off last week. And I'll show you where we move forward here. The first thing I did from last week was worked on the sidewalk. I had primered it with Tamiya light gray light primer, which is a non-filling primer. We just went, Father Ron just went over all the different primers available. I prefer that Tamiya. It's a little expensive, but it doesn't do any fill. Then I went back with polyscale and some grays and just dabbled different grays on this sidewalk. You can see the different colors here. Concrete is not uniform in color. Fresh concrete is this gray color. Older concrete, sort of a yellowish beige color, but I wanted gray because I wanted to contrast with my limestone. There are a couple grates on the, if we look right here, that's an opening for a cellar. They give you two injection molded styrene grates. I primed them with that Tamiya gray. Then I painted them with a flat black with the Tamiya military flat black. And then I weathered them with pan pastels, two rust colors, a white and a black. And that's the finished look. Next up, I made a modification to the tower. I thought since I was going for an Art Deco look that I would put in stained glass. So I took this, there was a wooden pane here that divided the window. I sawed that out. Actually, I pushed the windows out, started again, sawed this piece out, found online the stained glass, put in a piece of acetate, put the stained glass printout from PowerPoint behind it, and I did it on the right side and the left side. Give me an Art Deco look. This is looking down where the tower goes in place. You have to saw cut those resin walls to fit. I had first I used a little X-Acto razor saw, and it wasn't making too much progress, and I got my Dremel out with a saw blade and just hacked away at it. And then I glued it in place. So the building here is starting to shape up. Next up was the roof. They provided this wood. I put this wood in, but the thing that they give you like a cardboard, I'm not a big fan of that. So I used a piece of 040 plastic, and I shaped this to fit this diameter here. And then I glued it in place, and then I painted everything with Elmer's glue, and I sprinkled cinders on here, a fine cinder from Woodland Scenics. Then I dripped Woodland Scenics cement on this and soaked it. And then I dribbled a gray ballast from Woodland Scenics on there just to add a little variety. Next up, there was a gap here from it goes window, panel. There was a gap here, and I just took a piece of 020 plastic, super glued it in place. I put some filler in there, and I guess I don't have a shot of that finish, but I just painted it to match the rest of it. Next, I had to do the cornice. Now they give you strips of resin that is approximately 6 inches long. I made cuts every 2 inches, which would represent 8 feet. Because when you're dealing with cut stone, 8 feet's about all you can really do without cutting a special block of limestone to get anything larger. Plus, the larger it gets, it starts to weigh an enormous amount. So I made these in 8-foot increments, and the cuts are just precise, say a 1/16 of an inch down, and effectively looks like they're individual pieces. Well, these two are, but and I used a little filler here to make that joint. The overall effect is they're 8-foot pieces, though. Next up, how I do the windows. I use this evergreen canopy glue. So I just paint this on with a paintbrush. Then I take my acetate. They have pre-cut acetate, and I just put that in right on there. And I made these window shades, blinds with PowerPoint. I just went online and looked for a lace and colored it a beige color, and then I drew this line and this circle with PowerPoint, and painted this black with PowerPoint, made these little windows, and then I glued it on with that same canopy glue, and then when it was dry, I took Tester's Dull Coat in liquid form, and I painted the back of the window. I wanted this to have some sort of permanence, and by sealing the paper, it's not going to curl or discolor. It basically paints it, it soaks through. Next up, there's a fire escape. Without going into great detail, it doesn't look like this. The fire escape is actually twice as large. This was a little mysterious to me. You have to cut and glue pieces together to come up with this shape. The photographs really came in handy to create this fire escape, because it's not your standard fire escape that I think they bought one from somebody, Tichy probably, and the photograph saved me on that. There it is, weathered, rusted, and there it is in place. So the process here is I paint it flat black, the ladder, all this mechanism that I had to make. I paint everything flat black. Then I paint it with a rust wash. Then I go in with pan pastels and rust colors. And then I go in with a pan pastel and a gray. You get a very effective weathered look here. It's a simple process. These are the decals that they give you. They recommend that you spray these with Dull Coat before you cut them up and use them. So per the instructions, I gave this 2 coats of Dull Coat. It's strengthens the decals. It was a great tip because these are very large decals. This is probably 3 inches by 2 inches, and they tend to fold on you if you're not careful sliding them off. And if it weren't for the toughness that the dull coat, I might have ruined them. Oh, the other point is these are these decals, if you don't paint behind them, you won't see the white. They're clear decals. So they're on white paper here now. So you see all this white lettering. But if you don't paint behind the decal white, you'll see the brick. So what I did is I cut out my, in this case, it's Dexter's Quality 5-cent cigar. I cut it out, and then I traced, I more or less got it to size here with a permanent magic marker. I outlined where I wanted my paint to go. Then I painted it with an acrylic paint. And then I put on the decal. It's kind of a clever way to get white behind your decal. Here's the model more or less done. There's my stained glass windows. This is an Art Deco look. This is dimensional cut limestone with what we call a rock face. We call this the natural complement to brick. There's just enough gold on here that it doesn't look gaudy, at least in my opinion. And these window shades are a nice touch. Simple thing you can do on PowerPoint. I just went in and looked for 1920 window shades, brought them into PowerPoint, sized them properly, and put this little string and circle on here. Same with down here. They give you a decal that says Dixie Beer. Well, on my train layout, I have Fort Pitt Beer in Turtle Creek, so I wanted it to I didn't want to have a Southern beer on the side of my wall. This decal came from them. These are simply PowerPoint printouts that I cut out, sanded the back of them, painted them with Elmer's glue, put them in place, and then with a very wide brush, I soaked the front of them with water, and they basically conform to the brick just like a decal. That's how I did this Fort Pitt, this Lucky Strike, and this headache pill. This is an actual decal from the kit. That's the same technique I used for this beer. It's what's for dinner, this little joke. This is paper. I sanded the back of the paper, painted it with Elmer's glue, put it on place, took a wide brush, soaked it with water, and it conformed to the brick. It's pretty much the same quality as the decal up here. They do provide you with decals. I just wanted a little variation. There's up close of the fire escape, the window shade, the stained glass, the decal, the cornice. This is one single piece of resin. I primed it gray, painted it brown, touched it up with gray paint, and then put pan pastels on it. Slightly out of focus, sorry. There's the overall of the finished building. I mean, I don't know that these photographs do this thing justice, but I swear to God, this is of museum quality. It is just an amazing model. You pick it up and hold it, and you look at all the hand-carved stonework, brickwork, all the ornate Art Deco materials. It is a gorgeous kit. And as Jeff pointed out last week, even though it is a relatively expensive kit, it took me 5 solid weeks of working on this. It's not a shake the box kit. It doesn't fall together with 4 walls and a roof. There are a lot of pieces, a lot of different materials, and I urge you to give this one a try. It's probably Tom York's best kit. He claims that it's his most complicated kit. I claim it's the best kit I've ever worked. So thank you for the past 5 weeks, and urge you to check out Frenchman River Model Works and this kit in particular. Any questions?
Any
Yeah, hi,
chance?
Tom, this is Greg.
Yeah,
I know I missed a week and maybe you covered it then, but the roof for the little round part that sticks out, is that
Yeah.
one casting or?
yeah, it's one solid resin casting.
Okay, nice. It looks great, but I know he can do that with his talent.
Yeah, like I said, I primed it with Tamiya light primer, and then I painted it brown with this rattle can. And then I took dry brushes of various colors of gray and just dry brushed it.
Mhm.
And then I took some pan pastels and touched it up here and there. And then I finish coated it with dull coat. So it's
Looks fantastic.
permanent. Yeah.
Thanks.
Hey, Tom, this is Bob. You used canopy glue in one of your sections there. Just a general question, are all canopy glues the same, you know?
I think there's a brand name that's called Canopy. I don't know that they're all the same, but the one I use is called
Used
Evergreen
Evergreen,
Scale
thank
Models Canopy Glue. They're probably different brands. It's not Elmer's glue, I can tell you that.
Yeah.
Yeah. Because if you get a little on the window, you don't see it.
Tom, you did a beautiful job building the kit. I can't thank you enough for all the hard work you put into this one, and it shows. So thank you so very much for doing this.
Thank you for having me. Appreciate it.
We'll look forward to your build of the next Tom York kit that's produced by Frenchman River
This fall.
this fall. But thanks so very much for doing it, and hope your knees get better right quick.
Thank you.
Well, now I want to go to something that I'm impressed with. 3 manufacturers: Cat's Paw Industries, which is Sherry Johnson, who is sick right now with COVID and she can't be here. Alan Rogers Company, and Karen's American Models Company have come together, and they are producing an S-scale animated scene that I think that you're really going to be impressed by. We're announcing it tonight, and Alan, I will turn it over to you.
Thank you, Jim. Thank you very much. I wanted to start by saying we have been meeting for the past 6 to 8 weeks. Karen, Sherry, and a couple of other people, including Joel, who will be with us in a few minutes here, to collaborate on this scene. And just working with these folks has been so enjoyable for me, just to get to know them and to get to work on a project like this. I've produced some O-scale kits for my company, but I've never really done anything with animation before. And I don't have any images to show you tonight because we had another meeting yesterday to finalize the footprint, and I have to get with Sherry for her approval before we go public with my revisions. But basically, it's going to be a transfer station that you can tailor make to your particular railroad that you're modeling. You can use it in a farm toy scene. You'll be able to put some different siding on the structure, including fake brick if you want to. And I wanted to go ahead and turn it over to Karen as well right now, and just let her tell us about her company first thing. And as she talks, I'm going to go ahead and put our website addresses up in the chat, so you folks can visit our websites if you would like to. So Karen, welcome.
Karen, you're muted. You're right.
You actually may need to select your microphone with the audio, a little uptick next to the audio down at the bottom left where you mute, little uptick. Click on that and see which microphone you got chosen.
Should be at the bottom left of your screen, Karen.
Bottom left, yeah.
You're using the wrong microphone.
Alan, I hate to say it, we can't hear anything from her, so you might want to move on here.
Yes, sir. In fact, let me do this real quick. I'm going to go ahead and share just a picture of her webpage on my screen for everybody to see. And I also put the website address up on the chat now for Karen's company. And Karen, we have a technical problem, unfortunately, where we can't hear you. So at this point, I'd like to go ahead and invite Joel Weber to join us and talk about the S-Fest convention coming up. And again, I'll put up the website address for that convention as well. So Joel, please join us and welcome.
Sure. Thank you. I don't show my camera because, frankly, it doesn't work very well. But yeah, the S-Fest is an annual grouping of S-gauge train folks. And you can say gauge, you can say scale. We have people who work in high rail, which is more your American Flyer, or even some of your scale type models like the American models, but with high rail wheels and couplers. We have folks that do scale. When I was in the Chicago club, we even had a couple of guys who were S scale narrow gaugers. In fact, they had their own layout that they used to bring around. So anybody who's playing around an S, we're welcome to our group. We rotate amongst Chicago, Milwaukee, St. Louis, and at one time Rockford, 4 different clubs that would host the meeting. And really, it's just to get together. It's a swap meet. It's an information sharing convention. We have clinics. And it's just a great opportunity to share with people who have a common interest. You learn a lot of things. You get inspiration, and at the end of the fair or the end of the fest, there's layout tours. Like my house in Naperville, never did quite finish my layout. It was always in some phase of continued construction. People will come by and look at people's layouts and gain further inspiration. Sometimes that's what you need when you got to get off the launching pad and start your project or start something. You just need to see that other people are doing it who probably aren't any more talented than you are, who just chose to apply themselves and get going. So it's a lot of fun. And as you saw the website posted, you could sign up through that link. It could be signed up online, or you can print out a registration and fill it out and mail it in. And we're just looking forward to getting together here in late October this year. American Models typically is displaying at our convention, has every year that I've ever been there. So, but it's a combination of manufacturers, larger dealers, and then just people like myself who will take a table and sell off some of their excess so they can buy some more.
Joel, your convention is what, 24th through 27th of October?
Well, it's the 25th, 26th, which is Friday and Saturday. And the 27th is Sunday, which is when we do the layout tours.
Okay.
So it's Friday the 25th, Saturday the 26th at the Doubletree Westport in St. Louis, and then the 27th is the layout tours around town.
Might also want to mention that Joel is the chairman of the S Gagers modeling group that has been advising the three manufacturers on what this animated scene should look like, what the structure should look like, what the animation should be, what kind of truck chassis, what kind of rail cars, and so forth. And thanks to Joel and the team that he put together, it's been very beneficial. I'd also want to mention that the value for attending his convention is that this is the pre-order spot for the animated model and scene that Alan and Karen are going to be telling you about. And this is the first time that you'll be able to actually pre-order it and see it. And we really do appreciate Joel, you and your convention for doing this for the manufacturers. So Alan, sorry, I'll turn it back over to you.
All right. Well, I believe this about covers it. So, although Karen, did you want to try and speak again real quick? I'm sorry, we still can't hear you. I'm so sorry.
Karen,
Well,
have you got something plugged into your speaker outlet on your computer? Like a headphone? There we
there's
go.
Karen, right on.
Hey, I hit it this time.
Well, Karen, welcome back.
No, you lost you.
Yep, still
You,
not coming
you
through.
actually have
You
to
did it
use the
again.
headphones. You have to pick the headphones up and talk into them.
Talk to your headphone. That's what you need to do.
I don't have headphones.
There we go. Now we can hear you, whatever you just did.
I don't know, I just touched the back of the screen, so. Can you hear me now?
Yes.
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 All right, well, I'm really excited about this, working with Alan and Siri, and look forward to us getting this thing together. Get it out there.
Thank you.
Well, Karen's company not only has rolling stock, and she has a plethora of rolling stock. They are the go-to people for S-scale. They have locomotives. They have other accessories such as vehicles for the road in S-scale. So you'll have quite a wide variety of choices about how to set up your particular scene with this forthcoming kit. So thank you again so much.
Yeah, if I can interject real quick, the two club cars that are available at our S-Fest are produced by American Models.
Very good.
What are those cars?
They're a pair of TOFC flat car and trailers. One of them, they're new paint schemes in terms of the trailers. One is Missouri Pacific, and the other is Chicago and Eastern Illinois.
Sounds good. Well, listen, guys, thanks so much for being here this evening, and we really do appreciate it, and I look forward to seeing more details.
Well, having us in.
Thank you. Well, now I want to turn this back over to Chris Corse and Greg Cassidy for the MyBuild segment of the show. So, Chris, I'll turn it over to you, sir.
Thanks, Jim. Go over to the lovely share screen here. And we'll bring up the slide presentation for tonight. I need to minimize this so I can get to that. Come on, this bar's in the way. No matter where I put it, it's always in there we go. Okay, now I got to the full screen. Share screen. There we go. You'll see it here in a second. All right. Tonight's MyBuild is featuring you, of course, July 24th. And let's see here. Tonight it is a free-for-all. And I'm your host, Chris Corse, and it's co-hosted by Greg Cassidy. Yep, Greg.
Yes, I am. Don't
right.
have much to do this time, except I have one of the models entered. So.
All righty. We'll move on. First up is Martin. Yep, Martin.
As much as I ever am.
As long as you're vertical, that's the important part.
Oh, let's not get too optimistic.
All right. Looks like you've got 11 slides tonight.
Oh, okay.
First one looks a little familiar.
Yeah, it'll look familiar to you at least. Wabash Valley made kits for these cars. These are the Oyster cars.
Yeah.
And these kits are not for the faint of heart, and they are somewhat crude. They come pre-printed on the sides, like stamped print. It's not the best, but it's what there is, and it's the only kit that's ever been made for these that I know of. And I took a few liberties along the way putting them together, but it got to a point where I saw on Chris's website, he was building these cars in 0 and 30, I believe, or HO.
It was HO, yeah.
HO. So I contacted him wondering if he could scale up his 3D prints of the vents and the hatches, which he did and sent them to me for a nominal fee, which was actually very nice of him. It actually was exceptionally nice of him, which made these cars very possible to build. And they sit on Fox trucks, which are a little odd as well. Not a commonly used truck, but that's what you find a few photos of these cars. There's about a half a dozen photos, plus or minus 2. And there are claims that they're actually blue as well, as not red, but these came pre-painted. I'm stuck with the red. So I matched the red as best as possible, painted the rest in odds and ends black, and just put it together as close as I could versus the kit instructions, which, by the way, are painfully difficult to read. Semi-handwritten, hand mimeographed. Well, I don't forget what year it was, 72, 71, somewhere in there. So a little rough, but a not commonly found car and a less commonly found kit. So I made that backwards. Okay, but I think this presages the theme of all the slides I have. So let's go to the next one. Oh, that's from the other side. Well, they look the same on the other side, plus or minus a little bit. Okay, different type of tank car. No oysters in this, just ammonia. This is an early Max Gray car I picked up off eBay, and it basically because I just like it. But I had to repair all the platform joints. Every platform joint when this arrived they were all broken, had to be soldered, adhesives, and all sorts of fun little tricks. And there are a few other broken joints across it. But I basically left this car alone because it's actually a really cool, short chemical gas tank car, and just not a common car. And I thought I should have one just for fun. Let's go to the next one. Oh, it's just the other side of the car. Okay, well, you see the brake stand. Okay, so I don't remember which one of these. There's 2 of these cars in the slides, and I can't remember which one's which. Could you go forward a slide or 2, just a minute?
Yeah, I think there we go.
Okay, go back. I know which one's which now.
All right.
Okay, 184 is the one that came to me in pieces and lots of missing pieces. This is a brass Thomas, All Nation, perhaps early, but mainly Thomas 3-dome tank car. It was missing the entire walkway on the one side. Part of the ladder was disconnected. Didn't have the brake wheels, and was missing the hatches. Now, you can't buy those hatches. But a number of years ago, I had noticed that these things were commonly missing. On the original, and on these cars, not on this one, but on the other car, they actually operate. They're actually hinged. But being hinged, they fall off and get lost. And I managed to grab one in passing at one point, made a mold of it, and cast 50 or 60 of them at one point, and thinking someday I might be able to use these. And every now and then I grab a car missing the top hatches and have replacement parts in hand. So this was just a quick solder, a lot of broken joints on it, solder up the new walkway. I think I don't know which side the walkway was on. I had to repair. But solder new supports in, solder new walkway. This is not the side I soldered up. I can tell by the type of joints, type of supports on the walkway. And some the old rattle can out in the driveway over the blacktop, which cooks the paint on about as fast as it comes out of the can. I've almost burnt my hands picking up brass cars in the driveway. I mean, it's 90 degrees outside above a blacktop driveway. It gets really hot real fast. So, you know, I can paint a car in 20 minutes all around the no scale without any problem, and it's ready to go. Take it back inside, gloss it, and start doing decals. Decals are from K4. I thought they were kind of an interesting car. So let's go to the next one. This is 184. 186 was all original. I did not have to do anything to this one. I managed to pick this one up at a remarkably good price. I just had to add the couplers. I just happened to have a pair of couplers that would work on this. And another coat of flat black, some gloss, a different, you know, a set of decals. Changed the 4 to a 6 everywhere on the car. An easy one to do. But this one had the hatches, and the hatches actually do open on this thing. Why you want that to happen, I don't know. There's nothing to be seen inside them. There's certainly no sulfuric acid. Let's go to the next one. Nope, just the other side of the same car. So this is a, don't remember what car this is. Probably an All Nation or a Thomas again. And was a fun thing to do because two different colors. And I just kind of like the idea. I had the decals on a very simple early tank car, Union Tank line. They were red ones and there were black ones. And I just wanted to have something different on my fleet of tank cars. Very simple lettering scheme, another set of decals from K4. So painted the car, let's see, what is this? It's like, I think it's candy apple red, which doesn't look that bright after you put a coat of matte clear on top of it. And then I have to go back and paint the frame and underbody separately. But easy enough to do, and I think it makes a nice, sharp, different looking car. Stands out from all the black cars. Okay, let's see what the next one is, if there is a next one. Oh, it's just the other side of the same car. Yeah, and the hatch opens on that. Oh yeah, this is something else I picked up. This is a US Hobbies high walkway car. I just think these are cool. I just like them. If I can pick them up cheap being under $100, I grab them. It's an all brass car, basically unmodified, painted black, and I had some Sinclair decals for this, and old Walther set that you wonder if they're actually going to work or not, and no problems whatsoever with them. Maybe a little thick, but they came out okay, I think. So this also had a couple of broken joints, solder joints in the upper walkway, which had to be tacked back together. Other than that, it's pretty much original car. I didn't modify it any. Jeff Thornton wanted to know, only rattle cans used? Yes, actually, yes. Rattle cans and a very small brush. So, is there another slide on the other side of this car or something, or
I think so.
Or are we done?
Yep,
Oh, it's just the other side of this
one.
car. Yeah, it's the other side, the prettier side. I don't know if that's true or not. And that should be the last of my tank cars. So I got into a tank car phase and just was grinding out tank cars just to get them all off my bench and out into the stack behind me on the table. It should be the last one.
Yes, it is.
Very good.
All righty. Thank you very much, Martin. Are there any questions for Martin? All right. Guess everybody's happy. So thank you, Martin. And we'll look forward to seeing what you come up with for next month. All right. Next, we will go on to Kirk Butcher. Did I pronounce that right?
Butcher.
Butcher. Okay.
Butcher, that'll
All
work for
right.
you. I hope you can hear me well.
Yep. Looks like you've got 3 slides.
Okay.
All right. And there's the first one.
Okay, I couldn't get the whole thing in the picture in the camera. So you'll see one side, then you'll see the other. But trying to model a backdrop building for a passenger passenger car shop. And everything's scratch built. I mean, from top to bottom, except for the lower windows. I had a bunch of leftover windows at the bottom, and I went online to find a way to, because they're curved at the top, they're arched at the top of the windows. I went online to find a header that I could carve out to make up for that arch, because otherwise it doesn't look too good cut into the block like that, or the brick, whatever you want to call it. And so I filed those down and glued them on, and the roof, or in the middle, was made from cardboard. I got a couple of different techniques here that I've never tried before. I took the cardboard, and I have a steam heat in my house, and at the time when I was building it, the heat was on, and I cut the cardboard out to the size I needed, and I laid it up against the 2-inch pipe, vertical pipe coming off the furnace, and it warped it just to the point where I needed to get that curved roof. So you're looking at 2 pieces of large pieces of cardboard going across for the center roof. And the upper part is, I'm told from a friend of mine that does architecture work, that it's called a clear view, because I wasn't sure what you'd call that. But you see that in a lot of taller buildings, and I believe those were built for better ventilation, or they had them in the 30s and 40s. But I wanted to come up with something, and I couldn't find any windows. So I went online to do a little research to find out if anybody's scratch building window frames. And I saw the guy had a fiberglass tape he was using to make windows out of it. So I had a roll of that out in the garage, and I went to cut it to shape, and I found that it just wasn't quite sized right. So I found another material used to repair. It's like a self-adhesive screen repair, and I took them and I cut out the holes with the X-Acto knife, and they seem to be about the right size. So all the windows at the top, plus I needed a lot of them, so it was pretty hard trying to find something commercially that would fit those windows. So I built those with the screen repair tape, and the upper roof is just a piece of wood, a long piece of strip wood, or whatever you want to call it, and I just glued it on there. You might want to go to the next clip there, so I can explain how I hung it.
What size is it, or what scale is this?
This is HO scale.
Oh, okay.
Okay, well, this is the other end of it. Pretty much the same thing, only much longer. It's about 240 scale feet long. The difficult problem with when you have a building flat like this size, is to get it to lay against the backdrop, because I was using hardboard. I've got hardboard backdrop, and it moves a lot, especially with the temperature. And you'll see in the next slide how I hung it. I actually hung the roof, and the clear view is hung on the back of the backdrop. So if you want to go to the next slide. Okay. Yeah. What I did was for the roof, I used a tiny brass screw and a washer, and similar to the way you would hang a piece of siding on a house or a garage or whatever, I cut a slot in it with my my Dremel tool, and then when you tighten it down, you back it off a little bit so that it can slide back and forth. And when I started hanging this, it was in the middle, and you could see how far it's moved. And
yeah,
also,
it's a pretty nice idea.
Yeah, and it works really well. It holds it pretty snug to the backdrop. And the upper part, the clear view, you can see a wire there that I glued to a piece of plexiglass. I use plexiglass for my windows, and it was be able to keep it straight and have that long of a piece. You need that type of structure to back it up, to hold it, to keep it from sagging or what have you. And so I glued this piece of wire, and then I put the 2 nails in the backdrop so you can't see it. You can see the roof below it there. So the back of the roof, which is the wood on the bottom there. So, but it was an interesting project, and it was a couple of techniques that I'd never tried before, and I actually like the screen tape. Works really nice. It looks better on my building than it does on my wife's on the house at home. So anyhow, it was a fun project. I enjoyed doing it.
Cool. Well, thanks for sharing.
Sure.
All right. Are there any questions for Kirk?
Kirk, it's not a question, but a couple of kits I've worked on that had those upper roof windows, they were called clear stories on the ones I was working on. So I think that's one word for them.
Okay, clear stories. I was curious if anybody knew what they were called with the louvers. I mean, you have some with louvers and some with windows, and I don't know if this called, maybe they're called clear stories as well.
I don't know. The ones where they were called out in the kits I was working on had windows, but I've done a couple with louvers, but they didn't mention it by name, so I don't know. Probably the same.
Yeah, I mean, I was looking online to find window configurations, and I'm modeling the middle of Pennsylvania, that area. So I wanted to try to keep it looking Midwestern, and so that's what I came up with. And as far as, like the headers around the windows, that was just something I thought I could try. I wasn't sure how they'd turn out or if they'd even look good, but that's what I came up with.
Yeah, it looked good.
Thank you.
All right. Any more questions before we move on? All right, Kirk. Well, thanks for sharing. And now we'll move on to finding the right mouse. Greg, you're up.
All right. Thank you. As some of you know,
you've got 6 slides tonight.
All right. As some of you know, our club has an N-scale layout that we take to shows with us to promote our scholarship. And I've been tasked with building structures for it. And one of the things they wanted to put on it was a gas station. And I found this at a show for $10. And I said, well, that's worth it. So I picked this up, and I've done less plastic kits, especially in N-scale, than wooden kits. But I said, well, I'll go ahead and give it a try. Next slide. So as I was putting it together, one thing I decided I wanted to do was have a sort of interior in it. So it comes with cardboard to make a back wall. And I went ahead and downloaded some pictures of the inside of gas stations and put those in it. And I also downloaded some signs and glued those on the inside of the windows. If you use canopy glue, since it dries clear, you just need to put a little bit on the front of whatever you print out and then stick it in the window, and it'll look like it's taped inside the window. So that worked pretty good. Problem with N-scale is all of your dust is really big too. So that's why you see so much in this picture. But next slide. And this was it all done. I added a couple of things to it, but most of what you see there came in the kit. The vending machine, the tire, the gas pumps, the oil stands. The only thing I added was a little oil tank on the side and the price signs on the Gulf sign. Next slide. And I'll tell you, the hardest thing about putting this together was the decals. When you're working in N-scale, they are so tiny. And I never thought I was going to get all those lines on the building straight. It's actually 3 decals, one that goes across the front and one that goes down each side. And they worked pretty well. And for being a kit that I think was about 25 years old, I didn't expect the decals to work as good as they did. I was pleased about that. You might also see it was designed to be put on a layout. So the concrete pad under the station came with it, but the rest of the pieces were meant to be put on your layout. So since ours is a portable layout, I needed to be able to remove this. So I just used some 040 styrene for the black asphalt pad that you see there and glued everything to it. Next slide. And then this is a little close-up. Again, with N scale, once you start looking at it real close, you can really see all of the out of scale stuff. You know, you see dust and stuff like that that you never see on an HO or an O scale layout. But having the interior inside, at least people will be able to see that. I also put an interior inside the service bays and a little bit of junk inside there near the door so you can see those. Next slide. And then this really shows how small it is. We now have about 10 N-scale buildings on our layout. 8 of them are wood kits, mostly from Mud Creek models, and then 2 plastic kits. And we fit them all in one small little box with some padding because they're just so tiny. But it was fun building this. It was one of the more challenging plastic builds that I've ever done, just because everything was so small. And I'm glad I finished it. But there you go. That's my N-scale gas station.
Yeah, it's funny. That's one of those kits. You look at it, look at the packaging, and go, "Oh, geez, I don't know that that's going to come out looking all that great." But I think you did a great job with it. I think it came out great.
I agree, particularly that tiny. My gosh.
Yeah. All right. Thanks for sharing, Greg. Are there
I
any
just had a
questions
quick
for Greg?
question. Yeah, it's Alan Rogers here.
Yep.
Greg, was that kit, was that injection molded? Is that how they
Yes.
made it?
Yeah.
I see.
And I think their injection molds use the same thickness for N scale and HO scale because the walls are the same thickness, which means you're really dealing with some pretty thick pieces of plastic for a really tiny piece.
Yeah.
But you know, some painting and sanding, and I managed to get it to go together pretty well. So
it looks just great.
well, thanks.
Appreciated the gas prices.
Yeah, I had to go look for 1960s gas price signs, and that's how I found those.
It's got a little bit of an Art Deco look to it too. All right. Any more questions before Greg, before we move on? All right. Thanks for sharing again there, Greg, and we'll look forward to seeing what you come up with next month. Next up is Gary Cooper. You up, Gary? All right. So I guess we'll go ahead and go through his slides. He did send a little bit. I didn't say what scale it is, but actually, judging by the tracks, I'm going to guess ON30. Does that sound about right? Or look about right to everybody? But he has a coaling tower. And he built up the sand house and water tower, ash pit, and then the outhouse. Not to spoil anything here, but looks like the coaling tower was board on board for the most part. And yep, there we have the coaling tower, the sand house. Yeah, looks like he did a great
Nice
job
looking.
with that. Yep. I'm gonna guess it's 0-30. It looks 0-30 to me.
Yeah.
Does anybody think
Yeah,
any
I'd go-
different?
Yeah, I'd go with that. It's a beautiful model, though.
Yeah, gorgeous work on that on the coaling tower.
Yeah.
That's one of those
Gee,
kits I just I dread trying to, or one of those projects that kind of dread going to, but it looks like you you cut the wood the right way and assemble it right, it comes out really nice.
Nice ash pit he put in too.
Yeah, I
Yeah.
thought so. Too. Yeah.
Yep. All right. Well, thanks for contributing, Gary. And we will move on here in a second. Next up is Leonard Davis. You up, Leonard?
Yes, I am.
All right, cool.
I are here.
Is that like Toys R Us?
RR.
RR. All right. Let's see. Looks like you've got 2 slides tonight. First one is up.
Yeah, it's a sand tower, sanding house complex. I built that. Still have more work to do on it. Got to do the carriage for the cover, but it's close. It's almost presentable.
Yeah. This is P48.
Yeah, Proto 48, O scale basically structures.
Okay. All right. And then the next one. Did you scratch build the tower?
Yeah.
Yeah, the whole thing.
Yeah, it looks fantastic.
Background looks good too.
Yep.
I didn't do much over that though.
Yeah.
Scenic Express, hello.
All right. Yeah, it looks like you got a tarp over your sanding pit there.
Yeah, like I said, there's a carriage that holds the ends of it in, so they can pull a tarp out and then retract it fairly quickly. But I didn't get to. I found it in a library, looking at stuff, and I said, "Oh, this is cool," and you kind of like morphed into build this. And
yeah,
so here we are.
Yeah, it came out really nice.
Yeah, it did.
Well, thanks for sharing. Are there any questions for Leonard? All right, I guess not. So anyway, thanks for sharing, Leonard. We look forward to seeing what you can come up with next. Next up, we have Bob Farquhar. Yep, Bob. Bob's not up. I don't believe that. Oh my gosh.
Yeah, he was here earlier. Maybe.
All right. All right. Looks like he
The engineering.
He went ahead and I believe this is HO scale, but correct me if anybody recognizes the structure here and knows better. But Fundy Engineering, it looks almost like a background flat. In fact, it probably is a background flat, I'm guessing. Yep, it is, because it's really narrow. So well, if you're out there, Bob, thanks for sharing, and we look forward to seeing what you can come up with next month. All right, next up is Cliff Flatten. Yep, Cliff. I see you, Cliff. And he's trying to turn on his microphone.
There we go.
Yeah.
Found the right button.
Okay. All right, looks like we've got 7 slides for you. Yeah, and actually yours I took and I reordered them a little bit because to
great.
me it a little bit different order than you had them in.
Yeah, I kind of forgot all about this, and I was like, I woke up at 5:30 this morning and said, I got to get these shot off to him. This is 164th scratch built. I built this for a lady out in Montana. It was her granny's trailer that she grew up in, and she asked me to build her a model of Granny's place.
That's neat. That is neat.
All right, so it's scratch built. All right, and we'll go to the next one.
This is another customer that I have. This is a Roycraft mobile home that he's giving to his friend as a gift. This was a fun one because this was the first one I've done with that peaked roof that was added on, and it's a removable roof, so he can look at it the way it originally was or the way it is now, and they use it as a cabin. But yeah, it's a lot of fun. I like to do the old mobile homes. This was one of my most popular. It's the old Croft. I've sold 3 of these. One went out to, actually all 3 of them went to Michigan. Just found them. Everybody just loves this butterfly roof on it. Again, just all scratch built.
I'll be darned.
Yeah, it's got kind of an Art Deco. Well, I don't know, not really Art Deco-y, but kind of a modern look, I guess.
Yeah, they love
Yeah.
that fun butterfly roof on it. And this is a smoker trailer that they used to build back in the 50s. It's got 3 levels in the front. Kind of fun. I scratch built the wheels on this one. I keep finding all these funky, fun old mobile homes and travel trailers and put them in the system and make them, and that's what I end up with.
You do laser cutting on these, I take it?
I do, yeah.
What scale are these? What scale are these in?
Everything I do is 1/64th scale, so S scale.
Boy, they're just beautiful.
Thank you.
And I've never seen these models before.
Oh, all right. Yeah, the smoker, a lot of people haven't. I found a few YouTube videos where people have explored ones that they found on old properties, but they're all rotting into the ground. I don't know if there's really much out there of any usable ones anymore, according to the gentleman that I watched. But yeah, it's a interesting project to do.
Why do they call them smoker?
It was the brand name of it.
Oh, okay.
Yeah, you kind of think that you'd see some dude out there putting some meat in there and starting a fire and
I'm starting a cityscape, and this is my mom's cafe with the red windows, and then the one next door to it. Haven't quite decided what it's going to be yet. I'm doing a hotel. I'm going to do a supermarket. I'm kind of taking a little bit of Driving Miss Daisy, where they go to the Piggly Wiggly, in one of my other buildings that I'm working on. And just part of my die-cast collection. My cars are the reason I build all my builds, because I have a huge collection of die-cast 1/64th. So it's fun to experiment, do different windows. I'm trying some stained glass windows, like they used to do those little lights on the top of the big windows in the house. I've done a lot of houses, but now I'm trying to do a bit of a cityscape. And there's more of a close-up.
Very, very
More
nice.
of them. Thank you.
Very, very nice.
all right. Well, that's the last of those slides. So
All right.
thanks for sharing. It's very unique. It's always very interesting to see perspectives of what other people model besides trains and related. So thank you very much for sharing.
You bet.
Before we move on, are there
Cliff?
any questions?
Yeah, I've got a question. Cliff, is that that textured sort of plastic paper that you use to wrap the structures here?
Okay,
yeah,
I found a guy on Amazon. He's from Greece, and he has
Yes.
a printer that makes that paper, and I just love it. It's just so great to work with.
It is. I've got a guy that I get some of that stuff from, and apparently the guy in Greece, he normally does wallpaper, but this is kind of a side business for him.
Yeah.
Because that textured stuff is used for wallpaper as well.
Oh,
yeah,
fun.
That's what it is. In fact, I use it in my kits. So I know I've been to Howard Zane's and he's got big stacks of it. And so
well, they look great, but I love the trailers too.
Oh, thank you. Yeah, they're fun. I've got a whole file full of fun old trailers that I haven't built yet.
Cliff?
Yeah, it would really be something to see a trailer park that you could create with all your different kind of trailers.
I've been working on one of those. Yeah, because I usually build a prototype before I build the customer's model. So I always have a prototype floating around, and we've got about 8 of them right now. So I just gotta find the space to make a trailer park.
Then you got to put a tornado to go with it.
Yeah.
Well, listen, if you build that trailer park, I hope you'll come back on the show and show it to us, because I'd really
Oh,
like
absolutely.
Yeah. Yeah, it's very,
Can I
very
ask a
cool to see
question?
all these different aspects of what people are up to. So
what kind of material do you build your trailers out of?
I started out with basswood, and that's what I built most of them with. But I happen to be going through all of my cardboards and everything I have, and I found this charcoal board. It's like a 4-ply framing mat. And that's what I built these buildings out of. And I can't find the charcoal board readily. And now I'm using a 4-ply framing mat. The laser cutter cuts it beautifully. It's got a nice stiff texture, and it comes in a larger sheet. So I don't have to seam pieces if I'm going to do something bigger.
I'll be darned. Thank you.
Thank you.
what is that? You said charcoal board?
It's called charcoal board. Yeah, you find it in the art supply department.
Yeah.
At like Hobby Lobby and Michael's. I just picked up something new the other day. It's slightly different, but it's a similar thing. And I'm anxious to try that, see how it does. I've got a prairie style house I'm doing for one of the doctors in the hospital I work at. So that's going to be a fun one and I'll try to get that one to the show sometime.
Yeah, just looked it up. Looks like some interesting stuff.
Yeah, it's a nice stiff, and it doesn't really warp like wood does sometimes. I don't worry so much about splintering. You know how some you go real fine on that, like the window details. Sometimes it's so thin that it just burns the wood right out, but the paper tends to hold on a little better.
Yeah, I'm not seeing really sheets of it.
That I understand you to say. Go ahead. Go ahead.
No, it looks like I'm looking it up online. It looks like In Palette has some of this stuff.
Okay.
If I'm looking at the right stuff here, but all theirs has a metallic texture to it.
Yeah, I found one. Let's see if I can find it. I think I saved the company. I might have saved it on my work computer. But it was from another kind of a craft paper framing company.
Yeah, a lot of my searches, it comes up with things that are painted charcoal color.
No, I don't think I saved it here. I have it saved on my computer at work.
Huh.
But yeah, I just put in charcoal board. It's made by who's the company? I got a piece right here. It's charcoal board. It's an artist charcoal paper surface. It's made by the Crescent Cardboard Company. That's who makes that charcoal board. But the 4-ply of the other stuff that I got, it's a watercolor. So nice thing was it takes water-based paint and it doesn't warp, it doesn't come apart. So that made a big difference in what I could do with it too. It doesn't it cuts great, but you can't really engrave on it very well. It doesn't take an engraving because of I don't know if it's just such a tight grain, but that's all right. I can do that with something else.
One quick question. The application of that paper on your building, how do you apply it to it?
I used spray, the spray glue.
Okay.
That worked really good. Yeah, didn't warp it, didn't cause any bubbling, and held really good.
Okay.
I have a quick question too. Have you thought about releasing some kits of your mobile home models?
I've had a lot of people ask me that, and right now I haven't had the time to do that. It is something that I'm working on. I've been watching a few videos on how to really put that out there. So yeah, it's like I said, I've got so many that I want to make that but yeah, once I get them down, my sister's been helping me. She's trying to get me to be able to sell the file, that you could just buy the file if you have the cutter, and then you could scale it up and down, which is what I've done too. I made the S scale, I made an HO, and I made an N scale.
Well, if you start doing any of that, please keep us in the loop, because
Sure.
those would be a lot of fun.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, they're fun to make. And then, for me, I cut all the pieces separate so I can paint this one green and this yellow, and you get a really good separation of color without a lot of mess. So it comes out nice.
Very cool. Alrighty, any more questions for Cliff? Well, thanks again, Cliff. We look forward to seeing what you can come up with next time.
Yeah, and that was coming out on the 28th, right? Of August.
Yeah,
21st.
21st.
Okay, all right. I think I wrote down the wrong date. So, all right.
Yeah, I'll go over
see
it
what I can
at the
have on the
end.
21st. Pardon me?
I'll go over it at the end.
Okay, sounds good.
Alrighty. Next up, we have Jeff Jordan, who presents us with a nice new picture of the, is that the Durango and Silverton?
It is indeed.
Alrighty.
And
Looks like
yours
you got
truly on the deck.
You got 8 slides tonight.
Yep.
Was that this summer?
That was in June of this year. Yep.
Okay.
I took the cab ride from Durango to Silverton. Okay. And what we've got here is all Colorado, inspired by my Colorado trip, and that the Rio Grande Southern, well known for the vehicles called the Galloping Geese. Well, this is goose number 1, which only existed for 2 years. And I got this photograph while I was on my trip of showing goose number 1. There are very few photographs of it. However, it was indeed the prototype for the Bachmann rail truck, which is a heartbreaking model because it is such a neat little model, but it is manufactured by Bachmann. They just don't run. Their drivetrain is wildly complicated, and virtually every one of them has failed. So next slide should be my Bachmann rail car. Oh, okay, this is a little out of order, but we can manage that. This is also from the Ridgeway Railroad, or actually this is the Dolores Railroad Museum. Somebody had this neat idea. They took a bunch of photographs, period photographs of the Galloping Geese in service being loaded and unloaded with cargo. And they enlarged just the photographs of the cargo. And so you can see here, there are photos of some of the things that they carried on the geese: boxes of live chicks, large bags of mail. Grocery stores along the line get boxes of Wonder Bread, milk cans. And then down at the bottom, it's kind of small to model, is film cans for the movie theaters would be shipped in on the goose and dropped off. So next slide. And there's the Bachmann model of the Galloping Goose, or goose number 1. However, it has been completely remotored. Stan Shields, which some of you may know, he's active on the ON30 group on Facebook, designed and is put into very limited production a remotoring kit for the Bachmann rail truck that completely deletes the Bachmann drive line and replaces it with a small motor and gearbox. And the original Bachmann model had the motor up under the hood there. That's all stripped out, and so you can hide a decoder and a keep alive under the hood. And there's also a speaker inside the cab. So this model now runs beautifully, has soundtracks, DCC sound, and you can see the deck in the back. If you know the Bachmann model, it came with a great big black box back there, which was to hide all the electronics. It's deleted. The deck is clear, and so it can be filled up with cargo. So working from that photograph, I worked up this model of goose number 1 including the weathered stake board back. Also, incidentally, you've seen my station in the background there more than once, but the new feature there is it now has a nice wooden platform, which was a huge stack of coffee stirrers stained with Hunterline stain and is much more effective than the plastic Lionel platform. Next slide.
All right, this I think is the video.
Okay, let's see if it'll run.
I can hear it. There it goes. Yep.
And at the end there, the Auga horn. The goose number 1 did indeed have an Auga horn. And so the sound is amazing. That's the same video. I think it's looping.
Oh, there we go. Next photo.
And there's even a speaker hidden in the cab there. It's the first time I've used the Soundtrack Sugar Cube speaker, and I was amazed by the sound you got out of that tiny little sugar cube. So it's a neat little model, and with a reliable DCC system and sound. The goose number 1 lives again on my Rio Grande Southern.
Very cool.
And then you should have a couple of pictures of the loads in the next couple of photos. Yeah, here we go. This is my models of the loads you saw in the pictures. The milk cans are easy enough. Berkshire makes nice milk cans, so it's easy to get them, clean them up. But the Wonder Bread boxes in the back were a project to find cardboard boxes in O scale. They actually came off of Etsy. I downsized them a bit because they were made for doll houses, and then used my word processor to print the labels. And the masking tape is real masking tape cut into scale 3-foot wide strips. And so there's several boxes, and you can see up in the corner, they even have a little shipping label on there. So there's the Wonder Bread ready to go to town or to be to the local markets.
Yeah, Jeff, you just mentioned Berkshire Valley. I've got a little bit of news. We have convinced him to come to Timonium in October. So that's part of the Craftsman Courtyard.
That's going to cost me money. I love their stuff. Their detail parts are terrific. You'll see some more of their detail parts in just a moment.
All right.
Next slide. I think is their mail bags. Yep. As you saw, the goose carried lots of mail. Indeed, that's what kept the railroad going, was the mail contract. So there's a couple of bags. United States Mail, they provide the castings, and they provide terrific little decals for the U.S. mail. So they prime and paint the mailbag castings and then apply the decals they provided. And so you've got a bunch of mail bags. I actually now have them at more than one station on the layout. Also a nice shot of the new decking on the station, and you can see the interior of the station.
Yep.
Next slide. This one is to set up a story. There was a woman by the name of Josie Moore Crum, who was the depot agent in Ophir for many years. Her husband actually worked on the railroad, I think, as a conductor. And she wrote a book about years of experience talking to all the crews on the Rio Grande Southern Railroad. And one of the stories she told was that the Galloping Goose, the bigger versions, didn't carry very many passengers on most days. But one day, the motorman pulled into one of the stations, may have been Rico, and there was a whole troop of Girl Scouts. And there was no way they were all going to fit in the passenger compartment. And so he walked to the back and opened the box car doors on the cargo section of the Goose and said to the girls that, they could ride in the back. He'd open up the doors on both sides, and the Goose only goes 15 miles per hour, and that they'd have a comfortable scenic view of the San Juan Mountains. The girls looked in and saw this bench down the middle and thought that was great. So they'd sit on the bench, and they had an uneventful and scenic ride all the way to Durango. When they arrived in Durango, the car stops and 3 men get on board and pick up the bench and take it out and put it in the back of a hearse. So this is the bench waiting to be picked up by the goose. And it gives me the predicate to tell Josie Morecrumb's story about the Girl Scouts riding in the box of the goose sitting on a quote unquote bench.
Yeah.
And that is scratch built from just some spare boards I had around.
Yeah. All righty. Well, thanks for sharing, Jeff. Are there any questions for Jeff?
Beautiful cement block under the platform.
Yeah, that is actually cast, and then I just did a little work to bring out the detail when I painted it. It's a nice model. That is the Lionel Rico Depot, and notice that the plastic actually has some grain cast into it. And so by priming it and repainting it, I think it's a very presentable looking model, and this close up too.
Jeff, the sound for the predecessor to the Galloping Goose, did they have a decoder with the sound for that, or did you have to download sounds?
That is the Soundtrack's TSU decoder. It's called Baldwin and Other, and one of the others is the Galloping Goose.
Okay,
so you
cool.
literally buy that decoder, go to the CVs, change it to that, and they give you the choice of the horn that was found on the later models. But I thought the Auga horn had much more character, and Goose #1 had that. So I was just blown away by the sound. That tiny, tiny little speaker, it's literally the size of a sugar cube. And once you got it enclosed in the cab of the car, the sound is terrific.
Wow.
I'm a big fan of Soundtrack's sound. All of my equipment has Soundtrack sound decoders in it now.
Great. That's just cool that they'd make that available.
Mm-hmm. Yep. It shows you how popular the Goose is, that it was worth their while to make that one of the available sounds.
Yeah.
That is cool.
So stay tuned. The next couple of my builds will all be stuff from Colorado.
Okay. All right. Well, thanks for sharing, Jeff.
I came home from Colorado with a list of like 20 ideas.
Well, that's good. All right. Any more questions for Jeff? All right. Thanks, Jeff. And next,
Thank you.
Move on. Bill Stimson. He wasn't sure if he was going to be up tonight. Are you up, Bill? All right. Let me go do a quick read of what he sent. Okay. So there's 8 slides here. He did I believe this is an N scale version of the of Alan Rogers' New Tracks New Creations Victorian Buildings, the Weller gas station. So he did he had one of those built up. Alan, did you want to
I'll
talk about it?
substitute for him. He asked me last week, I think it was, if I'd be here and talk about these in his stead. So
yep, and if I would have read my notes, I would have known that.
No problem. No problem at all. You know what? If you want, I believe I've got a prototype picture. Let me just see if I can find that real quick, because that is actually a building that was around here in this neck of the woods. I do have it. How about that? Let me see if I can share my screen real quick. Well, I can't do that, can I, Chris? But
I think
that's
I would
okay.
have to stop sharing. Oh,
well,
it's already done for me. Okay.
Oh goodness. Okay. Well, let me throw this up there real quick. So this is the prototype, and I've never seen it in person. It was probably torn down in the 50s or 60s. So that's what it's based on. It was next to a general store out west of here, and so that's my N scale model that you just showed, and I've got those all the way up to O scale.
That's neat.
Very easy kit. I hope I didn't mess you up, Chris.
Nope. Okay. Looks like it came right back to where it was. Cool.
Good, fantastic. By the
All
way, the windows are 3D printed,
Mhm.
even in N-scale. I was able to get a decent 3D print. And the roofing material is called cambic. It's a cloth that you usually find underneath a piece of furniture that catches dust.
Oh yeah.
And it makes a pretty good tar paper. So that's probably it, huh?
There's 8 photos that he sent, and I think this is the second one.
Okay.
There's another
You
one.
did a really good job on this.
What scale is this?
This is N-scale.
N-scale, my God.
I make those in N, H, O, S, and O.
Okay.
Oh, I guess that was it.
That's it.
Yep. Oh, it was 5 photos, not 8. All right. Well, if you're out there, Bill, thanks for sharing, and for the shout out to Alan. And up next, we have Father Ron, who has 4 slides for tonight.
Hello. I'm still here.
Okay, cool.
This is board by board construction. It is just something I drew up and put together. I named it after my dad. My dad was Fred Walters. And actually, that phone number 497 was the original phone number when I grew up as a kid. The windows are Tishy, but the doors on the model are all scratch-built doors.
Wow.
This is the siding is, as Jeff Jordan mentioned, is coffee stirrers, all stained with Hunterline stain, several different types of stain. Then I used alcohol and India ink to tone down the difference in colors. The electrical box and the gas meter are both Walthers types things. The vent on the side of the building is, I forget who made that, whether it's RS structures or RS scale models or whatever, but it was another thing I had in my collection. The roof is construction paper, and I haven't weathered this yet. Tone it down in color. And I got the picture of Ready Electric up there, little Ready offline. That's I used what do you call it? Inkscape to do the sign, and the pipes and on that. Well, the vent on the left of the back side of the building is a Tishy, but the other black pipe sticking through there is just a plastic stir straw, coffee stir straw.
Yep.
Yeah, looking at the siding on this reminds me of an old kit. Do you know Albert Booz?
Yeah, I know Al Booz very well.
This looks like one of his kits to me.
Well, it's not a kit. I just
Well, yeah, but it looks like something that he would have done. It's very much along the vein of his work.
So I believe you can look on the door to the extension. That little piece is from another kit. I have no idea where it came from, but that's the padlock on the door.
Case.
Wow.
Okay, next slide. This is one of the Woodland Scenics kits with the, who is it that makes the interiors? This is the bookstore interior. I changed the sign on it. That's one of our Franciscans who was a bookworm. He read tons and tons and tons of books. So I figured he's deceased now. He's a friend of mine, and I thought, well, he needs to have a building named after him. The water tower on the top, I believe, is ITLA, ITLA. The opening for the get up on the roof is something I designed in Inkscape. There's also an air conditioner up there from Walthers. The fire escape is ITLA also. I put that together to put on the back of the building, and of course the electrical meter is a Walthers as well. That took me several months to put together. Sometimes those DPM kits don't go together very well. As you can see there at the top of the fire escape, I tried as hard as I could to get those to come together right, but sometimes it just you battle the fact that these are kind of gross molds that you have to try to fit together. So, but anyway, hopefully the fire escape draws away from the fact that that one corner doesn't come together very well.
Mhm.
Next slide. This is another kit from a company. I forget who I got this from, but the shingles on the roof are from what is it? Best Models. That was some of their roofing material. I think this is a Best Models kit that I put together. Lots of trains have line side structures that just people don't think to model, and I decided I wanted to do a bunch of them, and so this is one of them that I got this from Best Models.
Oh, was this that kit that he offered a while back that he was going to do, and for whatever reason ended up not doing a build along?
No, I don't know where I got this from Best, but this is not the kit, I don't think.
Oh, okay.
Done that one, but I didn't. This is not that kit.
Gotcha.
Next slide.
Yep.
And this is the last one. This is the one I did tonight. Did the for. This shows the back side of that same kit. It had a light over that middle window in the left-hand photograph. It popped off, and I haven't found it yet. So I have to make one out of wire and tissue shade and stick it in there. But that's the one piece that's missing on the kit. But everything else is the kit. It's all wood. It looks it is plastic, but it looks like wood. So
yeah, I've got a whole fleet of floor orphans here myself.
So that's it.
All righty. Well, thanks for sharing. Anybody have any questions for Father Ron?
Two comments for Father Ron. One, I'm thrilled to see somebody else model a red tar paper roof. You don't see that too often. And back in the day, red tar paper was a thing. So that looks good. Little weather and it'll be slick. For your DPM building, I suggest you get some wire or solder and make a metal downspout and run it right down that edge, and your edge will disappear.
Sounds like a good idea.
Yeah, and the back roof there, it'd be very common to have a downspout to drain the water off of the roof. And don't ask how I found out about doing that.
Jeff, I'll do that.
Father Ron, this is Greg. I love your models, your builds. They're coming along so well. But what I'm really impressed with is your photography. And I know you're a camera buff, but your photos are so sharp and so well lit. I'm really impressed with that as well.
I just use the iPhone. That's all I'm using on it.
Well, you know how to use it well.
Thank you.
Yeah, the one thing that I really like is the scratch built building back here with the tie into your father. That's awesome.
Yeah, I thought so too.
That makes it really special.
Yes. I'm going to share that one with my sisters.
All right. All right. Are there any questions for Father Ron before we move on? All right. Well, I guess that's about it for the MyBuild for tonight. We will bring you the challenge giveaway. Next month is the August challenge is harvest. We'll get to that here in a second. But the point of the challenge giveaway is to vote for the best fit of the theme. Right now, we don't have any kits to give away. So if somebody has a has a shelf orphan that they're willing to get rid of, let me know, and we will gladly highlight that, and we'll give that away. Or if you're a manufacturer and would like to contribute a kit, we can give you some free advertising for, well, basically for the price of the kit, and just let us know, and we'll be sure to get that moving. All right, so next month, the August challenge is harvest. We did this last year and it was voted by you to continue to do it. So we're going to do farm equipment, grain elevators, hopper cars, millers, tractors, agricultural things, barns, chicken coops, livestock, basically whatever you can do to kind of rope into that theme about the fall harvest. So if you have something to contribute, please email it to me, railrunner130@hotmail.com. And let's see, make sure I have my dates right on here. Yes, it'll be the 21st is the correct date, but please have your photos to me by the 18th. That way we can get it all put together in a nice slideshow ahead of time. So anyway, that's our show for tonight. And then we'll talk really quick about the MyBuild challenges. The schedule is up. It's on our Facebook page also. We've got probably 700-ish followers on the Facebook. And so if that's you, you have easy access to these challenges. August is harvest. September is a free-for-all. November is a free-for-all. Anyway, every other month is a free-for-all. October 16th, we're going to have layouts. Whatever you've got, whether it's finished, in progress, switching layouts, even if it's a modular or a diorama. So we want to try to make this as broad and inclusive as we can. And then in December, because everybody's going indoors, we're going to talk about interiors, the insides of buildings, engine houses, insides of cabooses, passenger cars, whatever you can come up with in that. February, we're going to go towards kit bashes and scratch builds. So whatever you can come up with on that. That is a really broad category, so I don't think we need to make it any bigger, but because it's huge. And then in April, automation and animation, make your move. I think Sherry from Cat's Paw was looking to possibly offer a discount for people that were willing to buy her product, her animation product, and show it on that MyBuild. And then on to June, we're back to water, which is what we did last month. And waterfront buildings, wharves, boats, whatever you can connect that's water related. Again, we want to kind of have a theme, but we don't want to go too hog wild and say, oh no, you're too far out of it. But so we want to include as many people as we can in these. So that's really all we had for tonight. I want to thank everybody for sharing what they have. And again, we are needing a donation for a giveaway kit for next month. So if you have availability to provide us with something, please let me know. Railrunner130@hotmail.com, and we'll get you do what we need to do for you. So that's all I had for the show for tonight. Greg, did you want to say anything?
No, just I'm really excited about the challenges coming up. They all look really interesting. And I look at all of them and say, do I have something ready to go, or do I want to build something for those?
Yep.
So that's what people should think about. Do you have something ready to go, or you need to hit the workbench?
Yep. All right. Thanks, everybody. And I will turn it back over to you, Jim.
Well, Chris, Greg, thank you both so very much for this evening. It was a great show and some beautiful modeling, just absolutely outstanding. So thank you to everybody who participated with Chris tonight. And if we can run the caboose, I think we're about out of show for tonight. thank you so much for coming to see our show tonight. Hope you enjoyed it. Most importantly, I hope you learned something. Till next Wednesday, when we're going to make the award to the 3 model railroaders who won our $2,000 scholarships. Happy modeling to everybody.